Hi guys, so we're getting closer and closer to the Scottish Parliament elections. They're taking place in May, and of course on Tuesday evening there were the leaders' debate, the leaders of the main parties, those being the SNP, Labour, Conservatives, Liberal Democrats and the Greens. Now, this man from Chile who was asking a question, there were questions from the public. He asked a question about something that's close to my heart, UBI. Now, the debate also covered other topics such as independence, Brexit, the union itself, but I wanted to focus on this issue because I think it's very important. So let's hear what the question was and how each of the leaders of each of the different parties responded.
But in order to ask your question so that all of you could answer and see how much you really want to work together, my question here is, will you agree in the next parliament term to vote forward of a unique and basic income for everyone in this country so that we can start the recovery in equal terms? And also, what are your priorities to have a green recovery? The climate is not a game. It's something that's going on right now. And we need answers from you guys to see what are you really committed to do in this Parliament, where many of you are talking about
thank you very much
united.
for that, Juan. We'll run round the panel quickly. Now, it's a huge topic, a universal basic income, which is a proposal that the government guarantees a certain minimum income to every citizen. We probably haven't got time to get into.
Yeah, so what it's about is the idea being that everyone in the country over the age of 18, for example, would receive £1,000 a month to live for the rest of their life. So this is not welfare. This is universal. There would be no means testing. There would be no checks to see who should receive it and who should not. It would be available to all. It's necessary, and I've talked about it on live streams. It's necessary because as we're moving forward, there are going to be fewer and fewer jobs available, especially for younger people. We've seen how jobs for life has become a thing of the past. My parents used to tell me, try and get a job in a bank, it'll be a job for life. And as we've seen around the world, banks are closing because a lot of services are going online. The job for life no longer exists. And as we're seeing more and more industries outsource work jobs to AI, to robotics, to software, it'll mean that there will be fewer jobs, more people searching for jobs, chasing those jobs. And in order to maintain a society, we need to make sure that people have the basics to live.
All the whys and wherefores of it now. So let's go for a yes, no. Universal basic income, Douglas Ross.
No, I've looked at what the Joseph Rowntree Foundation and others have said, and I'm not convinced by the argument on a new...
So this is Douglas Ross from the Conservatives, and of course he would say, no, I don't support a UBI, because he wants to push more and more people into universal credit. Universal credit and UBI are pretty much the opposite of each other. UBI is about providing people with dignity and the means to live. Universal credit is about taking away people's dignity and pushing them closer and closer to some form of slavery. Pushing them into a situation where they're forced to take jobs that they don't want in order to survive. If they don't take those jobs, they suffer the consequences of sanctions, where they could have their money cut or where they have their money delayed in some way. Universal credit is a disaster. The Conservatives are continuing to push forward with it because I believe that deep down they want to push more and more people into some sort of slavery. But I'll talk about that in another video.
Universal basic income, but I am convinced...
That's an answer. Come on, let's do basic income first, Laura.
And then come back.
The Scottish Greens are committed to working towards a universal basic income and will support trials of it during the next Parliament.
That's great to hear, and it seems to be a common theme with many Green parties around Europe as well. Many Green parties are supportive of a UBI.
Willie Rennie?
Yes, and we argued for it through the pandemic, which would have been an ideal time to pilot it, to make sure that no one was left behind. There was thousands of people missed out on support. This could have solved that.
I agree 100%, and it's great to hear that we have also another voice in support of a UBI. And he makes a very valid point. During the pandemic, many people had to work because they had to pay the bills. They were told by the government, stay at home if you can. But for them, it was not the possibility of staying at home because they could work from home using technology. They had to work because they had to pay the bills. A UBI, £1,000 a month, for example, would be a perfect solution to many problems, including the pandemic. When you need people to stay at home to self-isolate, they can stay at home, they can self-isolate, and they have their money that they need to pay the bills.
And it's our universal basic income.
I support trials of UBI. Actually, we missed an opportunity. The pandemic was a perfect opportunity for us to trial it across the country.
I think there's going to be perhaps a clash within the Labour Party going forward. So this is the leader of the Labour Party in Scotland. But I think going forward, there's going to be a clash between the advocates for welfare in the Labour Party and advocates for UBI. The Labour Party believe in reinforcing the welfare state, and I agree with them on many of this. But the welfare state has its serious shortcomings. A UBI would be a better solution.
Was it?
We've been supporting some local authorities to look and explore it. I support it. I'm very supportive of it, and the pandemic has made me more supportive of it. The reality is, without full control over tax and social security, you can't do it fully in Scotland. But without giving away my manifesto, we will set out in our manifesto how we will try to take some steps towards that, even within the powers that the Parliament currently has. One's point about working together, I think, is an important one. As First Minister, I think with the exception of the Conservatives, who never want to work with us, we've worked with all of the parties here. We've worked with the Greens on budgets. We worked with the Liberals on this budget, got more money for mental health. We've worked with one of Anas's colleagues to introduce free period products. So working together is a really good thing. And the final point about one is we have changed the law. So everybody who is legally resident in Scotland gets the chance to vote. And I think that is a symbol and a sign of the open, inclusive country that we are.
The complete opposite of Boris Johnson's Britain. Open and inclusive. Now, back to the UBI, I really do hope that the SNP push it forward, especially if there's the chance of an independent Scotland. It could be an example for the rest of Europe. Scotland leading the charge on a UBI, providing it to the people of Scotland. It doesn't have to be £1,000 a month. It could be £500 a month. It could be a few £100s a month, but something that people know they have every month in their bank account, or they have it in cash to them. And it actually saves money in the long term, because it eliminates, in a sense, the welfare state, which is a huge bureaucracy. You need an army of staff following people to make sure that they are not taking advantage of some sort of benefit, or they're not abusing the system, or that when people drop out and back into employment, that they're checked, that they are not claiming benefits once again. It's a disaster. It's expensive, and it doesn't work. Many people are still suffering even though they're on universal credit. And Nicola Sturgeon is right. She said that the Scottish government is limited in what it can do when it comes to universal credit, for example. This is something generally controlled in Westminster, and the SNP have very little power in Westminster. So I do hope that more parties will come on board around the world, around Europe, around the United Kingdom, to support UBI. It was good to hear from the majority of the parties here that they are supportive of UBI. It was not really a surprise to hear Douglas Ross, who is a Conservative and against UBI. Of course, his party introduced universal credit, and they want to continue to push that. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee. So why not check it out?